Ghostware Arena of the Dead, developed by Dev Team and published by Hyperstrange, is a retro FPS boomer shooter type thingy that seeks to emulate the more elegant and unsung heroes of the 90s like Unreal and Turok. It has a lot of interesting meta concepts going on, but does it hew too closely to its inspirations, or is it something truly original to watch out for? As the Canadians would say, let's find out.
Some answers would be good. Okay, let's go then.
After reading a confusingly meta intro screen, you awake in the body of a woman named Molly. Ghostware didn't make an amazing first impression, as the double wall jumping tutorial is dubiously responsive at best. But like most shooters, once we pick up a gun and start shooting dummies, it's aight. The pistol feels decent, and the shotgun, while a little stiff, is meaty and damaging, its sound effect doing the heavy lifting. In fact, the production value is what jumped out at me first and foremost about this title. The low hum of background machinery, the meaty shotgun blast, and the look of the game is just on point, consistent, and interesting. And once you've gotten past the basic tutorial, you'll get a load of what is the most impressive production value, the voice acting, which is not something many retro shooters make an attempt to excel at.
Welcome.
Who are you? What is this place?
This is a game. An FPS arena, to be exact.
Our luscious avatar Molly finds that she's what's called a ghost, presumably a resurrected player who died inside a video game deathmatch. The talkative weirdo that summons you here is called the Wizard, who thinks modern gamers have lost their touch and are all about immediate rewards. No lies detected. So, in order to resurrect a dead genre of arena shooters, actual ones, acting male, he'll need players like you to join up and compete for his entertainment. You'll be able to speak with your fellow ghosts here too and try to gain a better understanding of what this place is and its inhabitants, but surprisingly, the NPCs don't have much to say yet, despite this being touted as an immersive element by some reviewers. I don't know if their dialogue trees will be added to in future updates, but aside from the general lore setup of the place, I didn't see much elaboration on its core lore. But if nothing else, the dialogue has a But if nothing else, the dialogue has a likable and lightly humorous bent that's never cringy and left me with a pleasant grin on my face much of the time.
Of course, my sweet mix.
And when you're done pilfering around for world building, you'll be jumping through various portals into what are basically just classic competitive multiplayer maps against bots. Some of them deathmatch, some capture the flag, and others base takeover mode like Domination in Call of Duty or King of the Hill in Halo.
Oh, like in the King of the...
No! There are zones, none of them is a hill.
Surprisingly, I found a couple of these a real pain to beat, but persistence paid off and the rest weren't too bad. The main reason I think I had some trouble is that the aiming's a little weird right now. I'm not sure if it's that the aiming is maybe tuned up too high and the AI doesn't move quite at the same pace it naturally does or something, but I just ended up tending towards splash damage style weapons like the bubble gun and the rocket launcher that let me shoot at the environment and even bank some bubble shots off walls or at ceilings and tunnels. Not only were these the most effective, but they were also the most fun. Most of the weapons otherwise are fairly standard sci-fi stuff, from a pistol, shotgun, machine gun, sort of a concussion-style shotgun, to an electric shotgun, and none of them are truly useless. And even the pistol, despite its sort of wonky aiming, is what you'll fall back on because of its unlimited ammo, something I had to employ against the first boss. Speaking of that boss, I wasn't super impressed by its design, nor with the second boss. The first one's health bar was enormous, and any time I died, which was plenty, I just respawned a la Bioshock and tried again. Part of the reason it's sort of tedious is there's very little ammo around for the better weapons, so you'll spend most of the fight just using the unlimited pistol ammo, which takes forever. There's no real challenge or intrigue in this fight, and it just sort of feels like you're clocking some dead hours to get paid your hourly rate. But once you've completed these compartmentalized sections, you'll start engaging in some light exploration and dedicated platforming, which uses that goofy double jump I mentioned not liking earlier. I don't want to totally hate on this because I think the design of the platforms themselves are, fun enough of a challenge. But executing the jumps is just way too unintuitive or inconsistent right now and leads to death after death hoping your little ghost lady's feet aren't slipping off the edge every time you land. But fortunately, the platforming doesn't go on forever, and then you enter my favorite part of what I played, which are these otherworldly outdoor areas that reminded me very favorably of Turok and Unreal's environments. The wizard says that this is some sort of dimension between the real world and the game world, so you're nearly haunting the real world with your ghostly presence, as our buxom leading lady notes. Unfortunately, real-world rules apply, so you can no longer double jump. No items respawn, and if you die to magic bolts, it's game over. But I don't even know what magic bolts are. I guess they didn't come up. So maybe these show up in the final game or just aren't that big of a deal. This game's still in early access, so I really only got to play the very first episode. So a lot of things may change by the time the game finally releases. Anyway, I love this level. It's much more classic 90s linear FPS campaign stuff, and it has those glorious tropical nature sounds that you hear in Unreal and Turok, and a sort of tribal Deus Ex soundtrack. I love it. There's a level of nostalgia that's easy to fake, but hard to really nail, and the devs nail it here. We go on to sort of scale mountains and trees for hidden areas, moving forward speedily, finding little secrets and clicking switches that tell us something happened somewhere else, kind of like Quake did. We battle a big robot that's painfully easy to exploit, and then meet up with a hacker character who further complicates the lore by saying that essentially magic and computer hacking are the same here. I'll take his word for it. It makes some sense, as you can go back into those bot match levels and grab items that let you jack into the internet out here and find lore web pages and stuff and figure out the kind of meta detail of the world, which is a nice touch. All this stuff is a little underdeveloped right now, if I'm being honest, and it certainly feels like a slot where more will go later in order to make any of the world's rules really come into focus. That said, it is a fascinating little framework. Now, I don't agree with some other reviewers who take all this very seriously, like the lore be so deep and the world building's basically Half-Life or Halo or something. I think it's a pleasingly self-aware, above-average delivery of a story that's having fun with its meta components, winking at the audience while still informing some of the gameplay modes with its detail. And aside from some fun weapons, the game is definitely a more than the sum of its parts kind of thing, all of them coming together in kind of a pleasing reference package versus feeling particularly great by themselves. Overall, I think this game has promise. It's certainly an above average level of polish. I do fear that it may just feel like a collection of compartmentalized gimmicks designed to, do Quake for 30 minutes, Unreal or Turok for another 30, and then finis. I've only gotten to play the very first episode, like I said before, as this is an early access, so there seems to be room to add meat to the bone here. There are plenty of sections that I ran into that were roped off as of right now, so I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. It's got a commitment to a fun story that knows its references well, has some decent action, great sound, and a nice clean graphical look, and a likable vibe. I'll be interested in seeing this game evolve into its final form. Peace! Much love to Deadforge, Shantiva, Mark Neubauer, Hey Blondie, and James Wyatt. Thanks!